is from the Gateway Clinic in Hove, and he's in our Brighton studio. Hello, Michael.
Hello there, Neil.
Good morning. So what is it that gives us this kick about being scared, do you think?
Well, there are certain theories on it, but the major theory is adrenaline.
Oh, right.
Basically, that thing that runs around our body. You've mentioned the fine line between fear and excitement, and the fine line is it does excrete the same drug into our body, which is that wonderful adrenaline. We seek it, we like it.
Right, we like it, and so basically, if people didn't appreciate that, it's a subconscious thing then. We actually like adrenaline, so we go out seeking for it, even though we didn't know that's what we were looking for. Well,
it links in with what Mrs. Moon from Madame Tussauds was talking about, and that is that women may stomach better the fears and frights of this world. I certainly wouldn't want to go to Madame Tussauds, but well, I would, but I'd bypass the end bit. I'm a bit of an imaginary, scary person, but I think it's important to understand that women may stomach it better, but it's actually the men that seek the thrill.
How is that? Oh, really?
It's more so. There's a study done. I mean, the same question you asked me a little while ago was asked by a guy called Zuckerman 30 years ago, who actually studied this, and he came up with this amazing scale called the sensation-seeking scale. And with his research and measures, he found out that, well, women do actually tend to, and it's not for everybody, of course, but women tend to stomach gore a bit better than the men, but it actually is the men that seek it.
That's not interesting. Does it ever become a problem, this seeking of a scariness?
Well, there's a thing called adrenaline junkie, which is a very profound thing. But yes, there are clubs and societies throughout the world of addicts almost that put their whole life into seeking the rush, as they call it, which is quite safe as long as it is safe. Obviously, if it becomes an obsession, then it could be a pathology.
But Michael, this is an interesting one. You know, I mentioned to Diane just now about the fact that society has become more graphic in its way. It does horror. You know, that we can see far more gory images now than we could ever see 50 years ago. Is that inherently bad for us?
Well, no, this isn't a new thing. I mean, I think that's where we get stuck sometimes. People just think of how we are in our society today, but in actual fact, this really does stem from our folk tales of yesteryear. And they were used as a form of teaching about dangers and sharpening people's survival skills. But in addition to that, I mean, if we think about a child that is scared by something, of course they may become hysterical and quite frightened. And obviously, once they get used to different dangers and traumas and realising that it's not forever, there could be safety, there could be a way of working through this, it becomes less. And this is part of our society. We used to do it through folk tales and ghost stories and things like this, and now we do it through very graphic, vivid films.
You know how we're all a little bit of amateur psychologists?
Yes.
Well, I have my own little theory on this now, right. and you may say, well, what rubbish? But you know how...
Spell it to me.
All right, I will. Okay, so you can take this one as your own if it's any good.
Okay.
But you may say, oh yes, that was researched in 1923, Neil. But you know how we all have a sort of a different sensitivity to pain?
Yeah.
Right. Maybe there is a similar sort of thing of sensitivity to scariness. That some people are very adept at this, and that they gore. I mean, you mentioned the thing about the women and that sort of stuff. But I mean, I reckon that it's not a gender-specific thing. That it's actually just like the pain threshold. There is a scariness threshold, and we're all slightly different on that spectrum.
Yeah. Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head, really. Basically,
1923 was that?
No, 1907. No.
Right.
Year 2001.
Yeah.
No, basically, all horror films, all scary rides, etc., are all based on the human basic fears, which we're born with. They're innate. We don't like death. We don't like darkness, we don't like the unknown, and we don't like confined spaces. And if we take those and similar things around those experiences, then that's what all these things are based on. Now, some people may, for some reason in their life, have some experience which makes them ultra-sensitive to one aspect of one of those fears, which will then, of course, make them hypersensitive to a certain aspect of a scary movie. Some people can watch gory movies, but they can't watch suspense thrillers like Psycho, because maybe something happened in their development, which will make them more sensitive to that. So it's a very good point.
Right.
Yes.
Very well. Hang on there, because I want to get your sort of theories on films in just a second, because we're going to concentrate on that with Will now. Now, Will Leith is a journalist and has a great interest in films, including scary ones, and we've asked him to put together his top 5 scary films. But let's just start off with the genre first, then, Will. Do you like the horror genre?
I do, and I also like the Pringle theory of scariness.
Ah, good. Excellent.
Which is that what was it again? That we all have different thresholds and different things that make us worried. Now, I do like being scared, but I always think, well, I don't like being scared. Now, the thing I was thinking that scared me the most was the thing that made me run out of the room the last time I had a real scare watching a video. And what do you think that was? It was Sylvester Stallone in Cliffhanger, because I don't like heights. My girlfriend was on the sofa. I left the sofa, backed out of the door, looked through a crack in the door, went into the hallway and whistled, all sorts of things. I was just terrified of him hanging off. I mean, Stallone hanging off a ledge and stuff really got me. Now, funnily enough, about, I don't know, a couple of months after that, we were in the cinema, saw a trailer for a movie called Vertical Limit, and I said, I could not go and see that. That would kill me. What was the next film we saw? I said, let's go and see Vertical Limit. And I was terrified.
Oh, you didn't, did you? You fool.
And I spent about a third of the film in the loo. I really couldn't take it. The thought of people on ledges is the thing. Now,
but just as Michael suggested earlier, as the man, you went in search of your adrenaline rush.
Exactly.
But you couldn't cope with it.
I was going to say, something had driven me towards that, and I did feel really sort of good, and that adrenaline sort of cleaned out feeling afterwards. Walking out of the cinema, I saw Vertical Limit. Well, I didn't exactly see it. I saw some of it. Most of it. I saw most of it. So, if you want to talk about which films are the scariest, I guess it's which films scare you the most. But I've come up with a kind of list which covers all sorts of different fears.
All right.
And things which have scared me, and things which I've liked.
Okay, should we do number 5?
Okay, well, number 5, I saw this again about a week ago on video, and it's the first Cape Fear film. Now, this isn't the Scorsese one, it's the original one with Robert Mitchum as the really nasty guy who is a stalker.
Yes.
And basically, he appears in the life of this man, having been let out of jail, and says, hi, you're the one that put me in jail, and I'm around. And after that, he keeps on just popping up, and the man's dog dies. And there's this, is it him? Could it have been him? And everywhere the guy looks, the stalker might be, and it's the unknown thing. This man is a man of infinite power. He's going to do us in the end. So I think that's good, and it was made in an era when thrills were provided more subtly.
Yes, it's almost a bit how Diane ended her piece about the Chamber of Horrors. It's just that little movement of the policeman at the end, if you see what I mean. You see? It's I wanted
to say as a fifth equal, another black and white film, which I saw 2 days ago, The Secret Behind the Door, which is a Fritz Lang film, and it's all about a man who marries this woman, and they don't really know each other that well, but they fall in love. And bang, there they are, and he takes her to his house, and he's got these strange rooms, and they all have a special significance. And he says, I'm interested in rooms where people were killed, and I've rebuilt them in my house. And she thinks, well, this is strange, this is creepy, but I love the man. Anyway, eventually he says to her, but never go into this room. And that's always quite a scary thing, the never go into this room. Of course, she manages...
like a fool, she has to.
What does she do? She actually sees a candle. This doesn't seem that scary, but you know it's scary because she presses the key into the candle and then gets a copy made. When she goes into the room, the very scary moment is, it's her bedroom. It's a replica of her bedroom, and it's sort of like, oh, I see. He likes rooms in which people have been killed, and here's my bedroom. So that's one of those kind of old-time scary ones.
Very nice twist.
So that's my fifth equal.
Yes.
Robert Mitchum, The Creepy Stalker in Cape Fear, 1961, and The Secret Behind the Door. Do you want another one?
Yes, please.
Do you want another one? I'm gonna mention Halloween. Now,
yes.
Halloween is it's really the kind of you might say it's the original, which sparked up all the Nightmare on Elm Streets and all the Friday the 13th and all the Screams, or rather, is it 3 Screams or is it 2? In other words, you have a normal suburban, nice middle class street, and nice people and a killer. That's the basic sort of thing. And Halloween's a John Carpenter film made in 1978, and he always seems to be a little bit ahead of you. You're sort of, even when you watch it now, you realise that he's sort of playing games with you, and you're thinking, oh, I'd forgotten that, even though I'd seen it the last time. It always manages to scare you, and it's very simple. The guy's not he's not a supernatural guy. He's not a guy with a sort of disfigured face or anything like that. He is simply a kid who killed his first victim at 6, was put into an asylum, and eventually escapes to do it again. The thing that makes him kill is when couples have sex. So it drives him into a rage. So that's
and he's in the loft, isn't he? Was he in the loft in that one?
I think he's in the loft at one point. I mean, he's all over. The thing is,
I always wonder why they didn't bump into him. You know, I mean, in the house. This is only one house after all. I mean, you couldn't hide at the house.
No, you're thinking of the hider in the house.
Am I?
I think this is in several houses.
Oh, is he? Really?
Right. He's in the hedges. He's behind the sofa.
It's funny how these plots merge into one.
I know.
So many films. Anyway, Halloween, which spurred all those funny little ones. Okay, 3 to go.
Okay, The Shining. Now this is the Jack Nicholson film. Now here we have a man. He's a writer, and he says, I want to take my family to a hotel which gets snowed in all winter. Family includes him and his wife and his son. And you can see from the very beginning he's a bit of a nut, and you know that he's going to be snowed in, this nut, with his family all winter. And there he is. And things get creepier and creepier, and every day he goes away from his wife and he says, let me write, I've got to do my work. And about, I suppose, just over halfway through the film, she finds the sort of, again, it's like a secret room, the place where he writes. And she goes and sees a big stack of paper. And she knows he's getting to be a bit of a nut, and she's worried about him, so she's checking up on him, and there's this big stack of paper, and she looks at it, and the first sheet is covered with the single line over and over again: all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And there's about maybe 50 such lines on the first sheet. And she turns over and looks at the second sheet, and it's the same. And then she puts her thumb about a third of the way down the stack and opens it, and it's the same. And you realise that for 6 months, this is all he's been typing. And that's when she thinks, oh my God, he's a nut beyond my comprehension. And that's when the audience realises that too.
Oh.
And ooh dear. And then he just, comes after them. So I think that is scary, and yes. I think that's a very good film, Stanley Kubrick, of course. Number 2 is often cited as the scariest film ever made, and it's also been called the first of the modern horror films, the first modern horror film, and it's Psycho, of course.
Yes, I could see. Well, yeah, you see, I feel very proud. I thought I was talking about Psycho here.
Yeah.
Carry on. Yes.
Well, Psycho, again you see, and this is a theme in lots of these horror films, people having sex get punished for it. And what we see at the opening of Psycho, there we are, and there's a couple in a slightly seedy hotel in the middle of the day having sex, and they're not married, and this is set in the late 50s. And we're thinking, yes, that's a bit racy. It's a bit racy. And the woman, Janet Leigh, goes back to the office, and what happens is that there's a little bit of a few twists and turns, and she ends up stealing money and disappearing. And, of course, we then have her meeting the strange, creepy man, Anthony Perkins, who says, "Oh, I like to stuff birds. Oh, yes, I do. oh, and then I have to go and see my mother. Mother's calling. Oh." And the shower scene.
Yeah.
And one of the scariest things about that film, and particularly in the era in which it was made, 1960, was the fact that the apparent heroine, the woman you're sort of thinking you're going to be rooting for 97 minutes or whatever, is killed about a third of the way through. And so this is pretty horrifying. She's dead and gone. Oh dear. What's going to happen next? And
I think that was very bold, isn't it, isn't it?
It's very bold, and so that's the thing, that you get the shower scene is the thing you remember. And that does still make me, if I'm in a hotel, worry, and I check, lock the door, and then you get in the shower, and then you think, hang on, there's a shadowy bit over there, which I didn't check. The man might be there with the knife, and that. So showers and shower curtains, very sinister.
Will never be the same after that. Okay, what's your number one then?
Number one, and I think this is the most horrible thing. Now, Michael said earlier that our main fears are, and he listed them, and one was death, and one he said was confined spaces, and this is called The Vanishing. Now, there's two versions of The Vanishing. One is, and they're both made by the same director. One set in America, and one set in France. It's actually a Dutch director, and it's about a couple. And they are driving along on holiday in France, and they stop at a petrol station. The guy says, "Oh, well, look, I'll just get the petrol and I'll put it in and da-da-da." And the girl says, "Yes, well, actually, I think I'll just go and get a can of Coke or something." She goes to the, the little shop in the petrol station. And so he gets in the car, having done the petrol, and she doesn't get back. She doesn't come back. And he gets a bit worried, and he goes back and looks at the shop, and he says, "Did you see a girl?" And they say, "Yeah, I think so. Yeah, she's gone now." And he looks around, and it's just this little place in the middle of nowhere. She can't be hiding there. He looks in the loo, looks here, looks there. No, she's gone. That's it. And he thinks, "Oh, she's left me. I'll get a call." But no, she's completely vanished. So he thinks to himself, what am I going to do? I'm desperate to find out what happened to her. So he keeps going back to the place, and he keeps sort of driving along these routes around the place. Where could she be? And eventually he is contacted by a man, and this is the most sinister villain, I think, in any horror film I've ever seen. And he's this strange bearded man, and he says, "I'd like to meet you." And he says, "Yes, I do know something about the disappearance. Yes, might have been me." Like this. And anyway, I won't say the end, but in order to find out what happened, he becomes obsessed with finding out what happened to his girlfriend. In order to find out, he has to accept that this man will drug him and do the same thing to him.
Oh.
And when you find out what it is, it's, very horrible. Funnily enough, he remade it for America, starring Kiefer Sutherland, and it's not so horrifying. They couldn't take the utterly horrible ending. But as I said, it's to do with confined spaces.
All right. Well, look for the original then of those. Maybe there's something you can get out on video tonight. So The Vanishing at 1, Psycho at 2, The Shining at 3, Halloween at 4, Cape Fear at 5, shared with Secret Behind the Door. That was brilliant, Will. Thanks so much. But Michael, before we finish, tell me about of those. Do they all fit into what you were suggesting right at the start as what gives us a kick about being scared? All those strange individual fears that we have.
Absolutely. Couldn't be clearer. They have everything to do with isolation, being cut off. Said, and that was that he chose to go to see the scariest cliffhanger.
Yes.
Now, I think that's a warning to everybody, because this is a way of playing with our minds with this media of film. If you choose to go and be scared witless, then that's fine. That's the adrenaline rush, and you're managing that. You're in control. But a bit of warning: it's actually quite abusive to really force somebody to go and see something or to experience something they are very scared of. So if you encourage and they choose to, that's fine. But I think if they're forced, then that can be quite abusive. So bear that in mind.
Very fair point. Michael Acton, thank you very much indeed. Will Leith as well. Thanks a lot.